That Russian interference
to interfere in the U.S. presidential
used every major social media platform. Russia's disinformation campaign.
Living online.
Tell us what's real and what's fake.
Let's stop there. Hi, my name is Lorna Ramage, and today let's break down disinformation, the word you've probably been hearing thrown around on the news often. Who does it, why, and ultimately, how does this impact how you consume news on an everyday basis? So for starters, what is disinformation? Well, let's start with what it's not. Misinformation is your reporter on the right who spread false information not knowing that it was false. Maybe he didn't fact check it correctly, or maybe it was a faulty source. But this is different from disinformation. Disinformation is created by bots or alternative groups who are intentionally trying to deceive you. And that's the important difference, and it leads into their different intentions. And research shows that there are actually a couple, be it money, status, ideology, getting attention to your message, but actually creating distrust in the mainstream media is an indicator that research shows. And this is usually where foreign intelligence comes into the conversation. But it's important to know that there are actors that are not foreign who are still creating disinformation in the U.S. So, we've talked about what it is, who does it, and why. But ultimately, the question is, why does this matter for you? I'm going to guess that on a human level, you don't like being lied to. Also, the implications of these groups are already proving to be true. This Gallup poll from 2016 shows that American trust in the mainstream media is at an all-time low. And ultimately, you've probably seen hundreds of these posts on your Facebook feed, on your Twitter feed, and not known it, and maybe even shared it. So, in order to get back to the facts, it's critical to know how to differentiate between what's real and what's not. And the first way to do this is to check how it makes you feel. There's a saying that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I'll extend that to if you're reading a news headline and it makes you incredibly angry, it probably shouldn't. And in fact, research shows that this is true. Some of the ways that media manipulators are successful in this is getting an emotional reaction out of their targets and using offensive language. They're banking on the fact that you will read the headline and share it without even checking to see if it even sounds true. And it might sound simple just to check how it makes you feel, but even professional fact checkers give this advice to their friends and family when they're online.
If you are on a Facebook page and it looks like every post is trying to get you mad about something, go to the page transparency info category. It'll show you who's behind this page. Do they have ads running right now? When was it created? And if it was created September 2020, but they have 37 posts, that's probably a warning.
Towns mentioned the transparency boxes on Facebook, and this actually leads me into my next point, which is to create a toolbox that works for you. And thankfully, people have made these online and they're easily accessible. From Google Reverse Image, where you simply input an image and it'll take you back to the original time that it was posted and where, to websites like PolitiFact and Pointer, to the News Literacy Project. There are fact-checking organizations that do this daily, and I'll list some of them here. But the cool thing is Google has actually partnered with these organizations. So if you see a headline and it sounds fishy, simply run the keywords through Google and it'll actually bring you to the fact-checking organizations.
But then Googling it, which should take like two seconds, should bring up some fact checks, professional fact checkers like us, or mainstream outlets, news outlets. If you've heard of it, chances are pretty good that it's decent. If you haven't heard of it, or if it sounds like, freedompatriot.net or something like that, it's probably not going to be totally unbiased.
But ultimately, the best tool you have isn't even online.
The best one is your own discernment. It is, look at that URL. If it doesn't say .com, if it says .co, you may not be on a real, news website.
And ultimately, it comes down to transparency. If you can't answer the details of who, what, when, where, and why, then it's probably not a safe news article. So let's put this into practice and walk through one. So here I am on 100%effedup.com, and let's look at this headline. Unhinged Joe Biden calls large crowd of Trump supporters ugly. So basically, that's a pretty telltale sign. It sounds like it's trying to get an emotional reaction out of you, which it is. Again, they link to another headline that they made that starts with LOL, deranged Biden. Moving on, take note of the ads on the side. That's another telltale sign. And also in the actual reporting, they refer to the people they interview as ladies. And again, just keep linking to other social media sites. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of original reporting going on here. There's a pretty biased poll right in the middle. Keep going through all the social media, and we see another sign of bad reporting referring to Joe Biden as Old Joe. Right below that, we see rattled for Joe Biden. There's a typo. There's actually the number 4. Again, and just take note of the entire piece as a whole. So I actually went to the About Us page, and they're very upfront with what their motivation is: to be a conservative news site, to expose the truth behind the lies of the mainstream media, like we talked about earlier. Again, when you scroll to the bottom, #war, using emotional reactions. So I did a fact check, and I ran the keywords of that headline through Google, and I was taken to businessinsider.com. That's the first one, which is a reputable news site, and you see more of the real story. So as we scroll through, we get more of the bigger picture. We see that he actually called them ugly folks who were not very polite. What really happened? It was also mentioned that nobody attended the rally, but this one points out that there was social distancing in place and it was invite only. And then towards the bottom, we get the full quote that Biden said. And all this goes to show that getting the full picture is critical when dissecting disinformation. And that's a key takeaway here. Disinformation doesn't always look fake. If it did, no one would read it. Oftentimes, it's taking pieces and parts of the truth and framing it in a way to push your own agenda. But as we've seen, there are ways to detect it. First, check the emotion. How does the piece make you feel? Second, use your toolbox. There are tons of places to look online for tips and tricks. And third, always check the details. Who posted it, when, and what is their mission? And ultimately, the best advice might be use your own best judgment. If it looks fake, it probably is. Signing off, this is Lorna with Grady Newsource.